All right, so the first thing you do is you turn on the fan or the vent, the hood, whatever you want to call it. All right. So yeah, this is gonna make some fan noise here. Sorry, it's always one kind of fan noise or another. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so first of all, you got to have one of these little rings here, to make this a little easier. But then, see, what you got to do is you got to heat up the tortilla. See, because otherwise, they'll break, and when you try to bend them or fold them, and you just got to heat it just a little bit, right? You see, just when it starts to get a tiny bit brown on the edges, and once it just kind of collapses, right, it gives up that rigid consistency. All right, and then what you do is you put it on a plate, just like that. See there? Oh, look at that. We got a square plate and a round tortilla. See, that's interesting, right? Because the plate is kind of squarish. It's kind of a square, and it's a circular tortilla. Huh. What do you think of that, huh? All right, we're finished. So let's turn this off. Oh, sorry about knocking the camera there, guys. So yeah, one guy was showing off his old school electric can opener. Well, what if your whole kitchen is old school, huh? There was a whole lot of serendipity that occurred back when I was in my guitar building phase. I wasn't in any hurry to build any one particular guitar, and sometimes parts would sit around for a couple of month or two, just waiting for me to find the right part to go along with it. But with the case of the knobs, I chanced upon this listing, and it was just a big old bag full of old Strat knobs. It's all it was. It was just a whole bunch, and you could tell that it was just sort of like somebody's leftovers that was probably in a drawer somewhere, and so there was a lot of mismatched knobs, and most of them were not full sets. It wasn't a full set of volume, tone, tone. There was a couple of those, but mostly it was just volume and tone. And, as you may know from my last video, or one of my last videos, I usually do the two knob thing. So for me, it was perfect, just one volume and one tone knob. But yeah, I think I paid like $16 and change for this big bag of Strat knobs, and they were all different makes and stuff. I think some of them were actually Fender, but when I was doing these, it really didn't matter to me. Like a lot of this stuff doesn't matter to me. I don't care if the thing is old and distress, or not old, but a relic the way this one was. This is a nice body that I also lucked out on. Or if it's brand shiny and new, or if it's brand shiny new except it's got one chip out of it, that's pretty common when you're hunting for deals, because somebody's got this nice shiny new thing and it's got one ding on it, and for some reason you got that, and it's just like, oh, it's over, whereas you got a guitar that's got chips and dings all over the place, then that's okay. It doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, I do have certain parameters that I stick within, but there's a lot of leeway for me, as far as like condition and that kind of thing. Color, I really don't care what color it is. But yeah, there was something about, there were two of these volume knobs, and they were just, all of the, and obviously these don't match at all. But I think for an old guitar, or old looking guitar like this one, I think it works out okay, to have a set of mismatched knobs. But it does say volume on there. I don't know if you can see it. It just doesn't have any ink in there. But there was something about these two volume knobs that were in there that I don't know if they, if they cleaned it or like soaked it in some kind of chemical, but it just really was, there's no shiny finish on it. And like I said, there's no ink on the numbers. And so also what it did is it made the little ridges really kind of pointy and very sticky to the pinky. Right, so you can really flip this thing around like this thing, right? See, it's you can slip on it if you don't get it at the exact right pressure. This one, it doesn't matter what you do, it's gonna spin as soon as you touch it. So I don't know how they did that or why or what, when or who, but it's great for just having that volume knob. Because that thing you're flipping back and forth. I use it mostly as an on-off switch, but sometimes I'll come down, a little bit. And the tone, you kind of set it, and then you kind of leave it for a little while, right? But the volume, you're kind of messing with a lot more. So it's really cool, I think. It just really feels really grippy, this knob. So that's kind of cool. This pick guard was already aged, and it had this little sticker. The sticker was up over here. Yeah, you can see it was up there, right? But I took it off and I was like, hey, what do you know? It fits right over the hole here. And I don't like having a hole there, it just makes it feel weird and look kind of weird, So, this time I was lucky. There was already this little sticker that came with this pick guard. And it stayed on there now over whatever, 8, 9 years or so it's been on there, and it hasn't budged. But otherwise, you might have seen on some of my other builds that you can just go to the hardware store, and it's a little tip. You can just go to the hardware store, and not everything has to come from guitar specific sources. You just get a little plug that's the right size, and it just pops right in there. Done. So yeah, really nice guitar. MJT body, MIJ neck, CS pickups. This thing's great. Yeah, and the output jack plate here is really relic and trash. So this whole thing is kind of worn looking. Pretty cool. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, the whole thing with guitars these days. In the online communities. And it's funny because of the internet. When I was coming up, you learn about stuff little by little. You get a little tidbit of information here from one friend, and maybe something that you read out of a magazine or maybe a book. And everything is very kind of personal to you, right? You learn as you go, and you follow your interests and that's that's how the information kind of accumulates. But now it's like everyone's it's funny to watch. It's interesting in a way, because it's like everyone's like, oh, they learn about Strats and Les Pauls, and then it's like it's like, oh, P90s. Oh, P90s, now P90s are my favorite. Oh, look at that, these things. Oh, wow, those are great. What? And then it's for a second, it's like, oh, Filtertrons, what's that? Oh, I've never seen that. And then it's like, then it's like, oh, Jazzmaster, wow. Jaguar, what's that? Never heard of it. Mustang, never heard, but so it's like they're all kind of moving along in one group from one thing to another. And yeah, there are trends in guitar. There's pointy guitars, and then there's, whatever, the whammy guitars, and, humbucker, super strats. And there were trends, and, things kind of come and go. Tube amps kind of went away for a while. Remember that period? And, and then it was like everyone was just getting rid of all their tube gear, and and then that made a comeback, very much like vinyl, So, there are trends, but it's like now it really is trends, It's sort of like, and it's funny because now you can see it happening. I always say, everyone comes back to Gibson and Fender. That you stay in guitar long enough, you always come back to Fender and Gibson. You always end up with a Strat and then a Tele, and you always end up with something like that, right? And it's happening now. You can see it. You can just kind of feel it out there. It's like everyone's tried out all of these other guitars, and like I said before, I'm kind of a Squire guy too. I like that stuff. Certain periods, but it's funny that everyone is. You can see it happening. They tried out all of these other newer brands, that are just coming out, but it's just like, yeah, it's really all about Fender and Gibson. Maybe a little bit of Hofner, Rickenbacker, Gretsch, all that kind of thing. But yeah, everyone comes back to the Strat. Back in the day, back in my day, in the good old days, you would be lucky to be able to scrape up enough money if you could even find one of these. This would be like, wow, I've got some effects. But now it's like, you're getting a phone anyway, right? You're probably getting a laptop anyway, and it's just incredible. I mean, I'm kind of, harkening back to what I was saying before. It's just like when you come up in an age when none of this stuff was available, and now everything's, readily available, and you can't say it's free because you got to buy the hardware, right? But it comes free with the hardware, and it's something that you're probably going to buy anyway. So it's just amazing to me, what you got nowadays. It's just, and it really makes me appreciate it. It's like, wow, reverbs, delays, modulation, all this stuff, right? And compressor, forget about it. What did we have for compressors? In my world, this was the reality, right? It's like I was saying the same thing about guitar tones. When I say it was hard to get a guitar tone, I mean, on a budget in my world, right? I wasn't about to spend, over $1,000 on a big tube amp, right? Or even on a little tube amp. And yeah, but I guess you could get Fenders for $300 back then. But even that, it was too much, especially since guitar wasn't my main thing. It was too much to spend. I had other stuff to buy, cymbals and stuff. So yeah, this, anyway, I think you get what I'm saying. It's just incredible, the tools that we have now at every level. Square, 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 plain, plain, round, round, tortilla, tortilla. Square, square, plate, plate, round, round, tortilla, tortilla. Square plate, circular tortilla. Square plate, circular tortilla. Square plate, circular tortilla. Square plate, circular tortilla. Oh. All right, guys, that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice day.